Hello everyone, welcome to episode 27 of Last Minute FPL. This is the Gameweek 27 podcast. This will be a solo podcast as Vikas will not be able to join. I unfortunately have to take the blame for it because we did record a full length episode yesterday so that we could get the episode out in time, but our mic was on mute and so none of that footage is usable. So I'll definitely try to capture as much of Vikas's thoughts as possible because I did get a rundown of it just yesterday. But let's dive into it. Quick turnaround this week and extremely high variance game week. So a lot of people getting their assistant manager chip right, with Glasner getting 20 points, as well as some really low scores like mine. But yeah, let's jump into it. We look at last week's teams. We'll start with the AI team. Once again, top of the table with among the three teams on the podcast with 91 points. Up to 13.9k in the world. Excellent week all round. Mbumo, Wissa, Isak, Salah captain, and the entire defense with double Liverpool clean sheet and Lewis Hall getting 2 assists. Total 91 points. Great week and without using the chip. So amazing outcome for the AI team. Unfortunately, Pedro was on the bench because we did not get the news that Welbeck was injured before the deadline. But all in all, I think nothing to be too worried about, and the AI team also has the assistant manager chip still left to play. So top 10k finish in its sights. Let's see how the next few game weeks go. Moving on to Vikas's team. He played the assistant manager chip. This was the third out of the 3 weeks. He decided to move. He decided not to make a transfer from Emery to Glasner. Main reason being that he needed the transfers to build a blank game week 2019, and that actually paid off because he got Cunha in for a hit, which and Cunha immediately scored and got 3 bonus points. And Emery also returned with 8 points, so that's a good return from the assistant manager chip. If you remember, he had Moyes and then he went to Emery and Emery again, so all fixtures getting him good returns. In defense, he played Trent, who got a clean sheet, and he was disappointed with benching Lewis Hall for his 9 points. He did feel that if he had gone from Emery to Glasner, he would have played Lewis Hall. But overall, he's not down too much on those points because he would have taken a hit and he would have needed to take another hit to field the team in blank game week 29. The amazing thing about his game week is he went with Mbumo captain. He was very confident about it right from the beginning, and with the Leicester fixture that definitely paid off in the early kickoff. Mbumo getting 28 points. Unfortunately for him, Salah also matched it against Man City away, no less. Salah's having a ridiculous season, one of the all-time great seasons. But overall, I think 88 points and up to 2.2 million from 2.4 million, although it could have been a lot higher. The Liverpool game definitely knocked his rank down a bit, but great week nonetheless. The same can't be said for my team. I ended up with 62 points, but the week started off extremely disastrously. I was on 22 points, in fact, going into the final game week, final match, which was Liverpool versus City. I mean, Salah captain and Trent and Virgil returning were the highlights of my week, and of course Bruno getting 10 points was very unexpected. But I don't regret any of the decisions that I made. I did bring in Kluivert for Morgan Rogers, and double Bournemouth midfield blanking was a bit of a disappointment. But they were down to 10 men, and in a one-off game you can expect them to blank. And I think the only thing I'm a bit sad about is Pedro on the bench with 12 points. I played Mikolenko ahead of him because he had the United at home fixture, and Pedro was seemingly out of the team. But I think with the information I had at the time, this was the right decision to make. I think what really hurt me was the players that I didn't own. So Isak, who I sold for Watkins a couple of weeks ago. And then Mbumo, not owning Mbumo was also a disappointment. But again, I think Bruno has matched Mbumo's ever since I got him, and Watkins got a 15-pointer just the previous game week. So overall, it's unfortunate the roll of the dice this week didn't go my way, but that's how it is. I did fall 200k in rank, and I'm extremely behind in all my mini leagues. But looks like the rest of the season can be a free hit, where I can take some risks and then see where I end up. Having said that, let's look at where the mini league stands now. I think extremely tight at the top. The top three teams, just 14 points between them. Conte Kante regaining the lead over Alan Evans with that Glasner assistant manager pick really paying off. And I think the top three teams are also very close to the top 10k. So I think the winner of this mini league will likely be a top 10k finisher, if not higher. And also shout out to Sampath's team, Swampathas, getting 104 points. This marks 3 weeks in a row where he crossed the 100 point mark. So he had Munoz and Glasner, so that one goal probably got him about 30 points of return, which is incredible. And yeah, I think the league is definitely shaping up for a good title race. Going further down the table to our teams, Vikas has definitely closed the gap between 26th and him to about 50 points now. And I think, yeah, he if it wasn't for the Salah captain return, he had closed it even further, and I think he was up to 27th at some point. My team dropped 3 spots to 18th. But at this point, yeah, I think my targets can't be mini leagues anymore. There's too many things that have to go my way. So yeah, I mean, I will see where I can take the risks. I can't go fully all out differential because that's also not the style of my play. But yeah, for now, not looking good. New entrant to the league, Soren Larsen in 34th. New team this game week alone, and also 48 points, 48 game week points and 48 overall points. So yeah, new entrant to the league, so welcome Soren. Okay, moving on, let's take a look now at the previous game week matches. Probably we can start with the Man City Liverpool game, which was the most recent game that concluded. Yeah, I think a very assured performance from Liverpool, and once again Salah extremely clinical. He did get a deflected goal, but it never for once looked like he was in question of blanking. Even against City, I think he's like I said earlier, he's having an all-timer of a season, and I think that he's just 19 points behind the highest FPL season score ever, and he has 11 games to make that up, which is just amazing. And there were also some stats on Sky Sports this week in their post-match analysis. I think Salah's right behind he's right behind the assist record, the goal record, the combined goal contributions record. I think he's top of the table for returns per minute, and I'm sure he's well aware of these records, and he'll be going for them. So yeah, I think captaining him most weeks will be the obvious move, and if you want to bet against it, it'll be something scary. Surprising thing was Liverpool kept a clean sheet. Haaland didn't play, so that probably played a role. But this is the first match in Pep's Premier League career where he started off as the underdog according to the bookies odds. So a bit of a special occasion there. Moving on to the Newcastle Forest game, almost like a basketball game end to end, chances at both ends. Newcastle in fact scoring 4 goals in just a matter of 12 minutes, going from 1-0 down to 4-1 up. Isak getting a brace and the 3 bonus points as well. Chris Wood continues to return. Although he just got an assist, I think he's continuing to prove that the season is no fluke, and like he's actually keeping up with those returns week in, week out. Let's also quickly talk about the Villa-Chelsea game. Chelsea haven't looked that great for a while now, and Villa punished their defensive mistakes. If you see the XG created, both teams created around 2.3 XG, but Chelsea didn't take their chances, and you could see Palmer visibly frustrated with someone like Nkunku, and this was something Vikas was pointing out earlier as well when we recorded, that Nkunku actually started out wide and Neto played up front. And what we also saw was that Nkunku wasn't making the runs that Palmer was expecting him to make. Another thing that I felt was maybe Palmer suffering from some loss of confidence. Early on in the season, you saw him, um, overperforming his XG by a lot, and he was taking shots that had no business going in. Whereas now he's missing chances, he's scuffing some shots, and maybe it's just the law of averages. But he's definitely him and Chelsea are definitely going through a slump. Uh, in terms of Villa, they look great. Asensio and Rashford combining well for the goal. And yeah, I mean, bit of an uptick in form for them, and things are looking great, especially after they held Liverpool to a draw. Arsenal West Ham was the big surprise of this game week. Many managers went to Arteta to be safe, and it actually turned out that Glasgow beat him by 20 points, which is incredible variance because Arsenal had a 79% probability of winning. Maybe that was overstated given the injuries that they had, but managers who went for Arteta are definitely very, very unlucky. To see this kind of a swing is unprecedented even in FPL. I'm not a big fan of the chip, but kudos to whoever went for Glasner and got the points, because Fulham's home form was good, and Palace really dominated the game, and there was only one winner in it, and Munoz with the goal. At some point it felt to me like the Fulham defenders owned Glasner and Munoz in FPL as well. The way Mateta just ran through the defense, and then Munoz also beating a defender in the box before scoring in the near post. I'm probably just bitter about the AM points there. Let's quickly also touch upon the Leicester-Brentford game. Leicester at Southampton are clearly the worst teams in the league. Southampton also losing 4-0. Whoever plays against them is basically getting points. Pedro started up front, scored 12 points. Mbumo and Wissa finally getting their goals and assists. And another player to watch out for is actually Mateus Cunha from Wolves. Incredible player. He took his goal against Liverpool also very well. Had a similar shot saved, and then finally also scored against a 10-man Bournemouth. I wouldn't be too alarmed if you have Bournemouth attacking assets. Their mid-price midfielders are still some of the best cheap assets in the game. But Cunha, he has great fixtures coming up all the way up to post the wild card. So he's someone you can be looking to bring in. One thing that Vikas did mention when we were on the screen was that Jared Bowen looks really good, and he has some good fixtures coming up. So if you're looking for a midfielder who's a differential and a kind of a punt going into the blank game week, he's a good option. Cool. So let's move on to the next week fixtures. I think the two games that stand out for me here are Chelsea Southampton and Liverpool Newcastle. Because a lot of us will be deciding between Palmer and Salah for the captaincy. We did discuss the pros and cons of the two. For me, I think that Salah's on the kind of a form that you only see once in a lifetime. Although we did see something similar in 2017-18. I don't think Newcastle at home will be much of a challenge in terms of getting returns. Especially because in the reverse fixture, when everyone captained Palmer against Southampton away, Salah actually got I think 2 goals and an assist against Newcastle away. Now, definitely Palmer has the higher ceiling, I feel, in this fixture, given how bad Southampton have been. And I think that even though they're out of form, Chelsea are a class above, as these projections are showing. Chelsea is expected to score 3 goals against Southampton, whereas Liverpool is expected to score 2.4. And it's a good chance for Chelsea to get back to form. I think fixtures breed form, and I think this is a good fixture for Chelsea. A lot of the models also have Palmer as scoring more points than Salah, but you need to be a very brave man to bet against Salah, because even against City away, he had about 185% effective ownership, like 85% of managers captained him. So I expect it to be something similar, maybe a bit less, because Palmer has such a good fixture. But yeah, if you're looking to play it safe, or If you think that Salah is someone you shouldn't be betting against, then it completely makes sense to go with him. Other interesting games here are West Ham Leicester. It's interesting to see that West Ham has such a high goal projection against any team, which I think kind of reinforces the point of view that Bowen will be a good differential. And some interesting games like Brighton Bournemouth and Wolves Fulham, which can go either way. And if you have attacking players from these teams, I think that they won't necessarily get a huge scoreline, but the likes of Cunha or Joao Pedro or Mitoma or even the Bournemouth midfielders, you can't really predict how good or bad these defenses will be, because Fulham had such a good defensive record at home going into the Palace game, and then they completely shut down. And finally, I do want to talk about the Brentford-Everton game. I think Mbeumo and Wissa finally got the returns that they were promising in the weeks before the Leicester game, and the projections seem to agree that they're due to score a bunch of goals because their home form has been great. And even though Everton have been doing better defensively, I think they'll struggle to keep a clean sheet against this Brentford side away. Cool. And of course, I think we should talk about the Tottenham City game too. It's unpredictable. Spurs usually have a good record against City. But even though some players are coming back from injury, I think City still have a bit too much in the locker for a team like Spurs at this stage. And I know that City didn't really put much of a fight against Liverpool, but I completely expect to see them finishing in the top four. And then last but not the least, I think the relegation 6-pointer between United and Ipswich. Projections seem to show that United are favourites. If United do get the 3-pointer there, I think they'll take one big step closer to ensuring their safety and survival in the Premier League for next season. I'm completely serious because form has been basically relegation form, and they're only above West Ham, and then it's just the relegation teams, and maybe Wolves is in the middle as well. So not good signs, but as a Bruno owner, I have no choice but to hold him. He does play Ipswich and Leicester in the next 3 games, so hoping that he gets returns like the free kick he scored the other day. Cool. Moving on to the assistant manager projections. There are managers who are still on the AM chip, probably those who played triple captain Salah and then activated the AM chip. If you already have someone like a Glasner or a Pereira, because they had table bonus games last game week, I would just keep them and continue, because Palace do play Villa and they have the table bonus, and in fact the win percent plus draw percent this week is 66%, which is higher than what they had against Fulham. Same thing with Pereira against Fulham. They have 63% win plus draw. So the odds that you're getting this week are definitely higher than what they were in the previous game week. Also, Ange Postecoglou has Man City at home. So if you are a backer of Spurs' excellent record against City, they have a 50% chance of a win or a draw, where you can get a bonus. And if you want to play it safe, I don't know if I should be calling it safe, but Maresca Southampton at home has 80% chance of a win. So in terms of projected points, that also ranks pretty highly. Although we did see Arsenal completely lose and get a 0-pointer without scoring any goals against West Ham with a 79% chance. I wouldn't go with any other options. Maybe just the top 4 who have been listed. Maybe not even Ange. I would recommend just the top 3. And I wouldn't activate the AM chip if you haven't already in this week, because I think the next few weeks should be used in building up transfers for the to field a team in the blank game week. Cool. Let's take a look at the fixtures now. Top of the ticker, Wolves and Bournemouth clearly have the best fixtures going into the blank and the couple of weeks after the blank as well. So Wolves have Fulham, Everton, Southampton going into the blank. So Cunha is a good option. Ait Nouri if you're if you really need a defender. But I think Cunha is the player to get for me, and probably no one else. He's the talisman. He's a great player. He went on a scoring run earlier on in the season. I'm sure a lot of you have good memories from that, and will be looking to buy him back. Bournemouth still up there. The next three fixtures are really good, and then they have Ipswich and West Ham after the blank as well. So if you're not wildcarding straight after the blank game week, these are some players who you can hold. So Semenyo and Kluivert are still great options. Dango Otara, bit of a doubt. I mean, doubt as in I expect him to play, but Evanilson is back in training and he was on the bench in the previous game. I don't think Dango will be out the team, but his position may be moved eventually, and if you want someone for the medium to long term, maybe he could get early subs or eventually lose his place. So maybe I wouldn't bring him in at this point, but if you need someone at that price range, it probably just become a little riskier, but he's still a good option. He's the one who has the best data out of all the Bournemouth midfielders, and he's playing up front. So at least for this week, he should still be a good option. And then interestingly, West Ham is at the top of the fixture table. So we already spoke about Bowen, and the fixtures here look really nice. Leicester, Newcastle at home, and Newcastle haven't been that great defensively of late, conceding 3 against Forest. Everton away, Wolves away. Pretty good fixtures, and Bowen again on penalties, playing up front, talisman, good player. I think checks quite a few boxes. Ipswich, personally, I wouldn't go for anyone, even though they have good fixtures. City are an interesting one. I think going into the blank game week, their tough fixture run kind of ends. And if you want someone like a Haaland or a Marmoush, maybe game week 29 is the time to jump on them. Marmoush, maybe even now, you can probably jump on him if you don't need to make too many sacrifices. Haaland, probably not the time, because Salah still has good games, and Palmer, if you look at Chelsea's next two, it's Southampton at home and Leicester away. And Leicester at home, actually. 2 back-to-back home games against the worst teams in the league. I would in fact be looking to get some Chelsea player in if you can afford getting Nkunku in if you have that spot open. It could be a really good differential. Interestingly, Nkunku, I mean, he was subbed early, so maybe there is a bit of a question mark on him, but if you're chasing in your leagues and if you're looking for a climb in the ranks, you won't get 2 fixtures better than that. In terms of the teams to get rid of, I think it still continues to be the teams that are blanking in game week 29. I wouldn't get rid of Liverpool players just yet, simply because of the game week 28 game against Southampton at home. It does come between, I think, the Champions League ties to PSG, and they also have the League Cup final right after that. So there could be some rotation, but I think Salah, for example, will continue to play. He's going for goal scoring records, and Liverpool will not want to take the foot off the pedal when it comes to the Premier League title race. They don't want to take any chances or get complacent. So I think that keeping Liverpool players is the right thing to do. However, if you have Villa players or Palace players or Newcastle players who you feel you could go without, then those are the players I would be looking to get rid. I think at this point, fielding at least 9, 10 or even 11 players in game week 29 should be the target, unless you're so overloaded on these teams that you have to free hit. In that case, Palace still have 2 good fixtures with Ipswich at home coming up next. They're in good form, and we'll have some decent fixtures, Palace away and Brentford away. But yeah, if you have someone like a Watkins, maybe moving him on to a Cunha or a Wood or even a Haaland going into game week 29 would be a good option. With Newcastle, I think Isak is probably a hold. But if you have someone like Gordon or Hall, you can move them on to some of the options who have good fixtures. Cool. Moving on, let's take a look at the team attacking data now. Interestingly here, Chelsea top all the teams in terms of XG created in the past 6 games, and they have underperformed this XG, but it's a good sign for those looking to captain Palmer, for example. because, and we'll see this in the next slide, Southampton has the worst XG conceded by far. So a combination of these two suggests to me that Palmer is not that far behind Salah. If anything, he might even be ahead. Because if you look at where Liverpool lies on this table, yes, they have scored over 2 goals per game, but in terms of XG created, they have started slowing down a bit. It's Salah being so clinical and whatever half chances he's getting, is burying them, and that's what's leading to his excellent returns week in week out, getting at least a goal and an assist in almost every game. But when it comes to Southampton, they're just so bad. I think that it's worth taking a punt on Palmer, if it is a punt, because I think you could make the case for it, for him being the regular captain itself. In terms of the other teams, we do see that West Ham are very low in terms of XG created. So maybe a word of caution: if you're going for Bowen, don't expect him to get those major hauls. But being the talisman, he's probably going to be the one getting those chances and also likely to be on penalties. Same thing for Cunha, but almost a 1.5 XG per game, so it's slightly better for sure. But they're underperforming their XG as well. And now they have a good run of fixtures, so I think those numbers should get better. In terms of Arsenal, there's been a clear slump. I think the injuries have definitely affected them. They're creating anywhere between 1 and 1.5 XG per game. Not a good sign, especially given that maybe after the blank, players like Saka, Martinelli could start coming back. Maybe that's the time to get them, but they definitely seem to be out of the title race, and that's not a good sign. Some teams who are doing really well in terms of chance creation are Brentford, Palace, Brighton, even Everton. It's been a bit of a renaissance for them since Moyes came back. They've gotten good in both attack and defense, with Beto getting most of the returns in the recent weeks. And yeah, I mean, it's not a sexy pick, but he's around 4.9 or 5 million. So if you're looking for a cheap forward who'll play the blank game week and sit on your bench most other weeks, Beto is a good option. Bournemouth and Forest have gone down a bit in the chance creation table. I mean, Bournemouth were down to 10 men for a large part of the game against Wolves. But I don't see that continuing for too long. I think they still have some decent fixtures, and I think if you have Semenyo, Kluivert or Dango at their price points, I think they should come good. Cool. Moving on to the defensive data, like I said earlier, Southampton clearly by far and away head and shoulders worse than everyone else. Very interestingly, Palace is on par with Liverpool and Arsenal when it comes to XG conceded and goals conceded. And I think that's what finally helped them out against Fulham. Fulham too have been a stingy defense along with Everton. So I think it's time we viewed those fixtures slightly differently. They may not be as easy as they seem. In terms of the bad defenses after Southampton, it's Man United who have conceded more chances than even Leicester. But Leicester have just conceded far more goals than United, even though they've conceded similar quality of chances. Newcastle and Forest have deteriorated as defenses early on in the season. Both teams were very tough to break down, and especially Forest kept clean sheet after clean sheet. But that seems to have gone away a bit, although they're still somehow getting the results that they need here and there to stay up there in the table. I don't think their defense is as solid as it seemed early on in the season. And some other defenses which degraded a bit are maybe Bournemouth. So if you're looking for someone like a Kirkes, maybe it's not worth it. Now Zabani also got sent off, so we are not sure who will play in centre back or if they'll play the same formation. I think Wolves' defense is also not a great defense. It's probably better options out there other than Aït-Nouri. But yeah, I think that covers the defensive stats. Let's move on to the player projections now. We'll start with the forwards. So clearly the AI team feels that Cunha and Wood are the two strikers to go for in the next few weeks going into the blank game week. Haaland is up there as well, and Joao Pedro makes a return to this list now that he's back in the team. We don't know for how long he'll be there in the team, but for now he is an option. Yeah, in terms of the graph on the right, we see that Mateta is actually far and away the best striker in terms of XGI per 90. He has been getting the returns. He has been getting the chances, scoring the goals. He assisted a goal as well in the previous game. But I think the only concern is that he does blank in game week 29. So if you're someone on a free hit strategy, he's probably a good player to bring in. But in terms of fixtures, form and class of the player, I think Cunha stands apart. He has some great fixtures, starting with he had the Bournemouth game last week, and he has the Fulham at home this week. It's a bit of a tricky one on paper, but I think given the fact that he has good fixtures and he has Southampton in the blank game week as well, he can even be a captain option that week. So I think he's the standard option. But there are a few forward options emerging going into the blank. We have Marmoush, we have Haaland, we have Wood, we have Cunha, Visa's doing well, Joao Pedro's back into the scheme of things. So quite a few chances. Personally, I think saving a transfer this week can be beneficial when it comes to these forwards and getting some information, because there will be the FA Cup games after game week 27 where we'll get more information about who's likely to blank, who's likely to double later on in the season, and that will tell us where could be more beneficial to use your transfer. So if you're making a sideways move from one player to the other, maybe it's better to hold off on those transfers. Moving on to midfield, Salah clearly the standout in terms of EV, even though he has one game less in the next four. So this particular AI model definitely rates Salah over Palmer even in this week, 7.26 projected points versus 6.04. Although I have seen models online and especially FPL Review which rates Palmer higher than Salah for this week. Interestingly, Bruno Fernandes is third, with some decent fixtures coming up. And we do have the three Bournemouth midfielders rated highly. Bowen, as we spoke about earlier, is also rated highly. Mbumo continues to do well, and then the list is rounded off by Odegaard and Foden. If you look at the stats on the right, interesting that Mbumo and Salah both have similar XGI per 90. It's just that Salah's conversion has been on a whole other level. Mbumo has underperformed his XG for the past few weeks. He did return twice in the previous week to make up for it a bit. But if you have him, I think there's more where that came from. Two players who are underperforming their XG but creating decent chances are Bruno and Cole Palmer. At Palmer we've spoken about enough already, and I think the next two fixtures will probably put him back on the right side of this line. And also interestingly, Jared Bowen is creating a lot of chances as well, similar to Kluivert, but in terms of returns Bowen has a lot lesser, but I think these good fixtures can turn that around. One player who's going under the radar a bit is Szoboszlai. He has been getting the returns as well as creating the chances. He is a mainstay in that Liverpool team, and I think that most of us have been tripled up on Liverpool for a while, so he's not an option we typically consider, but he's been quietly getting those returns. Okay, moving on to the defenders. I think it continues to be the same set of cheap defenders who are doing well. So even in projections, you see Kirkes up there, you see Munoz, you see Robinson, even Huijsen from Bournemouth. I would steer clear of Bournemouth because of Zaberni's red card, as I said earlier. Apart from these cheap attacking defenders, you do have Arsenal up there because they have a fixture in the blank. Trent is still up there. I would keep him if you already have him, definitely not a buy. Guardiola is an interesting option going into the blank game week. They do play Brighton in that game week 29 game, and I think that you don't need to get him before it, but moving someone like a Trent onto Guardiola for that game week could make sense. In terms of the stats, Guardiola and Trent are the ones creating the chances. Similar to what we saw between Mbumo and Salah in the previous game, Trent is actually converting his chances, whereas Guardiola isn't. Um, yeah, and I think one player who Vikas actually pointed out as disappointing a bit was Gabriel. He hasn't been getting those headed chances that he typically gets. I think definitely missing out on some of Saka's corner deliveries. But yeah, as it stands, they do have some good fixtures, and with them playing in the blank as well, players like Saliba, Gabriel, and Timber are keeps. Let's also quickly touch upon the goalkeepers. Yeah, I mean, with the blank game week coming up, if you don't have a keeper, then maybe consider making a keeper transfer. Otherwise, I'd just wait. In fact, even if you don't have a keeper for the blank yet, I think you can make that move going into the blank game week. There is a lot of information to come from the FA Cup, as I said, and yeah, I think if you have any playing goalkeeper for this week, it's not worth a transfer. Okay, now let's take a look at the next week's teams before we sign off. We'll start with the AI team. A transfer has been made today by the AI team. It has moved Gordon out and got Jared Bowen in before his price rise. Pretty high upside move, and I feel like good timing for the move as well, just before he plays Leicester. It's kind of similar, reminds me of the Eze move that the AI team made just before his run of good games, and it actually got his good attacking returns. And that midfield is very strong. It's got Mbumo, Salah, Palmer, Bowen, and Kluivert, 5 penalty takers potentially, and even up front it has Isak and maybe João Pedro if he plays ahead of Vissa, because currently João Pedro's availability is a question mark, so that's why he's on the bench. And in defense, there's Hall, Trent, Mikolenko, and Van Dijk on the bench. Double Everton defense against double Brentford attack as it stands. So a bit of a hedging of bets, it seems like, but pretty deep squad, and well positioned to make a move into the top 10k, I'd say. Okay, moving on to my team. Like I said, I'm now ranked 730k, so season seems to be heading a bit of nowhere. And also I forgot to mention that the AI team is captaining Salah for sure, with the projected points being more than one higher than Palmer. Coming to my team, I do have the captaincy on Salah right now, but I am probably going to captain Palmer as things stand. I think a combination of the EV being higher for Palmer in FPL review, and the Southampton at home fixture, and also the fact that I'm chasing a bit in rank, I think that it just makes sense to go with Palmer and bet against Salah, even though Salah could definitely punish me. I don't think there's much to lose in terms of rank at this point. Bruno having Ipswich at home is a good fixture, hoping that he matches whatever Mbumo does, because yeah, that's a big threat to my rank. Similarly, no Isak is something that's quite scary. I already got punished for it. That will probably have to be made up by someone like a Virgil or a Watkins, or maybe a João Pedro. I think the trap has been set when it comes to Pedro. Hertzler did say that Welbeck is a doubt, so I will be starting Pedro over Mikolenko. I think the only silver lining is that Mikolenko hopefully can't hurt my score too much by scoring points on the bench like Pedro did last week. I think on paper it seems like a better team than previous week, and with other managers not having a chip, hopefully it's a bit of an equalizer and a calm one, where I'm probably just going to hold a transfer and wait for those FA Cup games to complete to get some more information. I did consider Watkins to Cunha briefly, but I think it's almost, and Cunha does have great fixtures, but I do want to get that information a bit, because for example, if Pedro is an option, then I may need just one less transfer in game week 29, and I can use those moves elsewhere, maybe to get a Haaland and sell a Palmer in 29. So some of those decisions can wait. So if I get Cunha, I'll be deciding my path a bit. And Vikas at this point did mention that for most teams, if they have Cunha and Wood and bench Isak going into 29. He feels that that's totally okay, having a five midfield team where you bench Salah and Isak. But I think personally, I didn't have so much value tied up in Isak, and Watkins has kind of matched him ever since I sold him. So I'll be going without Isak till after the blank and hoping that maybe Cunha or and maybe that can allow me to go get someone like Haaland. Even if I'm too scared to sell Salah, I should be able to sell Palmer and get Haaland for Watkins. So that is potentially on the radar, and which is why I want to keep my options open. Moving on to Vikas's team, he made an early transfer as well to move Rogers to Mitoma. Interesting move. I think Brighton have looked good in the past few weeks, and their fixtures in the next few look pretty good as well. And in defense, he is a little concerned about benching Lewis Hall, especially after Hall got 9 points in the previous week, even without keeping a clean sheet. He does have Cunha already, and I think his team is quite set for the blank. Maybe he has two more transfers to make, with which he'll likely get rid of Trent and get someone like a Guardiola. And maybe the other option would be to bench Isak and maybe move Endai or someone up to play like Chris Wood. I think that's what his blank game week team is likely to look like, and then he would bring Greaves on for Salah and bench him for game week 30. Cool. I think that brings us to the end of this week's podcast. Bit of a ramble, doing it alone. But yeah, do like, share and subscribe this video. Last week we did I did say that we were on 196 subscribers, and to help us get to 200, and within 2 days we were down to 194, which was pretty funny. We are back up to 195 though, so do like the video. Thank you.